Hello everyone, this is SyntaxError and welcome back to another tutorial. In today's tutorial, we will be taking a look at creating a ricocheting rocket launcher. And basically, we are just going to give that item to ourselves first. And if you go ahead and take a look, it does have custom damage. And if you go ahead and take a look at the item ability, upon right click, we will fire a rocket that explodes for 1000 damage. And when ricocheting off the ground, it creates smaller explosion for half the damage, which in this case will be which will be 500 damage. So if you go ahead and summon a Ravager first, you can actually see that it does have custom damage, which will allow us to two-hit the Ravager. And if we go ahead and summon another Ravager, we can actually see that if we go ahead and right click, it will kill the Ravager and it will ricochet, and it will create a larger explosion after the rocket expires, and smaller explosions when it's ricocheting off the ground. First of all, I would just like to point out that there are indeed timestamps in the description down below, so you can go ahead and skip to different sections of the video if you want to. Now let's get straight into the coding then. For the coding part, we are back in our custom items plugin, and the first thing that we can go ahead and do is create a new Java class, and we're just going to call it item manager. So this is where we are going to be creating the looks of our item. Then we can go ahead and create a public static item stack, and we are just going to call it rocket launcher. Then put our semicolon and create a public static void and call it init, which stands for initialization, and we are just going to leave it as it is for the time being, and create a private static void and call it create rocket launcher. Then put our brackets and curly brackets. So this is where we are going to be designing the item. Then we can go ahead and do item stack item equals to new item stack, and in the brackets we can type in the material of the item, which in this case will be a golden shovel. Then we can go ahead and put its amount as 1 and put semicolon and do item meta equals to item.get item meta. Then we can go ahead and import item meta. Then now we are going to be setting the name of our item. So we can go ahead and do meta.set display name and put our speech marks inside of our brackets and go into this website. The link will be down below in the description. This is where we get our color code. So in this case, we're going to get the color gold, which is this symbol with a 6. So we're just going to copy the symbol now. Then we can put in the 6 for gold and type in the name, which will be rocket launcher. Then we can go ahead and create a lore now. So the lore will be slightly different. We have to create an array list. So list string, and we're going to name it lore equals to new array list. Then put angle brackets and normal brackets and import both list and array list. Now we can do lore.add. Then we can put in the symbol for the color code and put in a 7 for gray in color. Then we can type damage, a colon and a space, then paste it in and put C for red, and then we can put plus 70. Then we can go ahead and add another line of lore, and this time we're just going to leave it as an empty line. Then we can add another line of lore. The lines of lore might be kind of long. Then we can put a symbol and a 6 for gold again, and type item ability colon space ricochet rocket. Then you can paste in the color code again and put an E for yellow in color and type right click with all capitals. Then we can go ahead and add another line of lore, paste in the color code with a 7 again, fires a rocket that explodes for, then you can create another line, put in a 7, no, that not a 7, C for red, and put 1000 with a comma, then paste in the color code again, the 7, damage, and when ricocheting, then we can go ahead and put our semicolon and add another line of lore, paste in the color code 7, off the ground creates explosions for, then we can put in our semicolon again, lore.add, paste in the color code again, 7, half the damage. Then for our final line of lore, we are just going to add an empty line. Now we can do meta.set lore as our lore. Now we are going to be creating a custom damage for our item. So we're going to create an attribute modifier first. So attribute modifier damage equals to new attribute modifier. Then in the brackets, we're going to type uuid dot random uuid bracket comma. Then we can open the speech marks generic dot attack damage. Then put another comma. Then we're going to put the amount of the damage now. So we're going to type 70.0, put another comma, attribute modifier. That's not how I spell modifier. Attribute modifier dot operation dot add number. Then put another comma, and then I'm just going to put this thing slightly smaller just so that it's easier to see. Then we can type equipment slot dot hand. Then we can put our semicolon and import uuid. Now we are going to do meta dot add attribute modifier, and inside brackets we're going to type attribute dot generic attack damage comma damage. Then now we're going to add an item flag, so meta dot add item flags, and in brackets item flag, that's not how we spell item flag dot hide attribute, so that the users won't be able to see the custom damage. Then now we can go ahead and do meta.set unbreakable as true. Then we can do item.set item meta as meta. And finally, our rocket launcher equals to our item. Then now we can go ahead into our init class again and type create rocket launcher, which is what we named this. And then we can go back into our main class and we can just type item manager dot init. So that's that done. Now we can move on with the commands. For the commands, we're going to need to go ahead and create a new Java class, and we're just going to call it commands. Then as usual, we're going to implement command executor. And then we can go ahead and type public boolean on command. And in the brackets, you can type command sender, comma, command cmd, comma, string label, comma, string, square brackets, args. Then we can open our curly brackets and import both command sender and command. Now we can go ahead and create an if statement. If exclamation mark for opposite of sender instance of player. So this will check if the sender of the command is not a player. Then we are going to do sender.send message. Only players can use that command. Then we are going to return true. Then now we're going to create an else statement. So if the sender of the command is a player, we're going to do player equals to bracketed player sender. Then we are going to create another if statement and check if the player is op. So if player dot is op. Then we are going to create an else statement first. So if the player is not op, we can do sender.send message as you are not allowed to use this command. Then we are going to go back into this if statement and create another if statement. So if the player is off, we are going to check what the command they sent is. So cmd.getName equals ignore case, and in the brackets we are going to type speech marks give rocket launcher. So we're going to check if the command is give rocket launcher, and if it is give rocket launcher, we are going to do player.getInventory.addItem item manager dot rocket launcher. So we're just going to add the rocket launcher into their inventory. Then we're going to go outside of the else statements curly bracket and just type return. That's not how I spell return. Return true. Now that's done, we can go ahead into our main class and list the commands. So we can do this dot get, that's not the wrong one, that's not the correct one, this dot get command, and in the brackets we're going to put our speech marks, and we have to type the exact same thing as whatever we put here inside this bracket. So we're just going to paste that in there because I make a lot of spelling errors. Then we can go ahead and do dot set executor new commands, which is basically the name of our commands class. Now we can go into plugin.yml and we can go ahead and do commands colon, and we are going to type in the exact same name of the command, which is give rocket launcher, and then we're going to put its description as gives the player a rocket launcher, and put its usage as slash angle bracket command angle bracket. So that's all the commands done. Now we can move on with the items function. For the items function, we're going to go ahead and create a new Java class, and this time we are just going to call it Rocket Launcher. Then we can go ahead as usual and type implements listener, and then we can go ahead and create a constructor first. So we're going to type the name of the plugin, which in this case is custom items, and we're going to type plugin. Then we're going to do public, and then we're going to type the name of the class, which is Rocket Launcher, bracketed, name of plugin again, custom items, plugin. Then we can open a curly brackets. That's we aren't supposed to exit the curly brackets yet. This dot plugin equals to plugin. So that's done. Now we can move on with our add event handler. So add event handler public void on click, and then we're gonna just do a player interact event and put event. Then we can open a curly brackets. Now we're going to check if the player is right clicking. So if event.getAction dot equals to action dot right click block, or event.getAction dot equals to action dot right click error. Then if it is right click, then we're going to do another if statement to check if the player is holding a rocket launcher. So we're going to do if event.getPlayer.getInventory dot get item in main hand dot get item meta is not null, and event dot get player dot get inventory dot get item in main hand dot get item meta dot get lore is not null as well. And the reason why we are checking this first is so that it does not give us null pointer exception errors in the console. Then we are just going to press enter just to make things slightly easier to see, and event.getPlayer.getInventory.getItem in main hand .getItemMeta.getLore.contains, and we're going to go back into our item manager and copy a line of lore that is unique to the rocket launcher item, which in this case is this line here, and we can go ahead and paste that in. So once it compares to lore and determines that the player is indeed holding a rocket launcher, then we are going to do player equals to event.getPlayer. Now we can go ahead and get the damage that the item is going to do first. So we're going to do a string lore equals to player dot get inventory dot get item in main hand dot get item meta dot get lore dot get 4. And the reason why we are getting the fourth part of the lore is because if we go ahead into our item manager again, we can take a look starting from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can actually see that the fourth index is where our damage is located. So we can go ahead and create a list string, and we're just going to call it lore split equals to a new array list. Then in the brackets, we're just going to type arrays dot s list. Then we're going to put our brackets lore dot split, and over here we're just going to split it by spaces, and we can import arrays, import array list, and import string. Basically, what this line of lore does is that if we go ahead and go back into our lore, we can go ahead and see that it's going to split based off the space. So it's going to split it into this part, this part, this part, this part, and so on and so forth. Then now we can go ahead and do string damage equals to lore split dot get 0. And the reason why we are putting 0 is that because once this entire lore has been split into individual strings, we can actually see that the zeroth index of the array would be where our damage is located. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we're just going to do damage equals to damage dot replace all. Then over here we can go ahead and get a color code and put in a C, then put our comma and put the replacement as nothing. So we're just going to get rid of the color code, and we are also going to get rid of the comma. So damage equals to damage dot replace all. Then we're just going to put comma and we are going to replace it with nothing. So we're just going to replace the we're just going to take out the color code and the comma until we are just left with the value of the damage alone. Then now we're gonna do location, and we're gonna do I equals to player dot get I location, and then we're gonna do firework equals to bracketed firework I dot get world dot spawn entity. And then over here we're going to put the location, which is I, and entity type dot firework. Then we can go ahead and put our semicolon. So this basically just spawns in the entity at the player's I location. Then we're going to do firework meta, and we're just going to call it meta equals to firework dot get firework meta. Then now we are going to set how long we want the firework to last. So meta.set hour as 2. Then we can go ahead and do firework dot set firework meta as our meta. If you want the firework to last longer, you can increase this value. If you want it to go last less longer, I do not know what the word is, you can go ahead and decrease this value, but keep in mind that the lowest you can go is 0, and I think the highest you can go is 127. Then we can go ahead and do firework dot set shot at angle as true, because we want it to face whichever direction our player is facing. Then we are going to do firework dot set rotation as our player dot get location dot get yaw. And for the pitch, we're gonna put player dot get location dot get pitch. So it's basically just gonna go the way our player is facing, and then we're gonna type firework. So we're gonna move the firework dot set velocity, and we're just gonna do I dot get direction dot normalize dot multiply by 2. So if you want it to go faster, you can increase this value. If you want it to go slower, you just decrease this value. Then we can go ahead and do firework dot set bounce as true, so that it bounces off the blocks. Then we can do firework dot set custom name as our damage. So we are basically storing the damage of whatever the explosion is going to do within our firework. Then we can go ahead and set the shooter. So firework dot set shooter as our player. Then lastly, we can go ahead and do player dot get world dot play sound, and the sound no, we're just gonna do player dot get location, and then we can go ahead and do sound dot entity firework rocket launch, and put its volume and pitch as 5. Now we can go ahead and create a new Bookit runnable. Basically how Bookit runnable works is it acts like a timer. Then we can go ahead and type public void run, and we can go ahead and compare first with an if statement if our firework is dead. So we are going to create the explosion once the firework um basically finishes. Then once it dies off, firework dot get world dot spawn particle, and we're gonna put particle dot explosion as huge. Then do firework dot get location. So we're just gonna put the explosion particles at the fireworks location and put its count as 10. Then we can do firework dot get world dot play sound, and we're gonna play it at a fireworks location. So firework dot get location, and the sound as entity generic explode, and put its volume and pitch as 5. Then we're going to run an enhanced for loop. Enhanced for loop entity colon firework dot get nearby entities, and we're just going to put 5, 5, and 5. So it's going to get all the entities within a 10 by 10 by 10 box around the firework. Then we can go ahead and import entity and put our curly brackets. Then we're going to check if our entity instance of living entity, that's the wrong one, instance of living entity. Then if it is if it is a living entity, we're going to go ahead and do living entity equals to bracketed living entity entity. And the reason why we are converting it into a living entity first is because entities include all things such as bolts and minecarts, which do not have health. So we have to convert it to a living entity in order to damage it. Then we're going to check if our living entity, remember the exclamation mark, which means it's not equals to our player, and exclamation mark again, living entity dot equals to firework. Basically this just makes sure that the living entity is not the player that shot the firework and not the firework itself, because we do not want them to get damaged. Then we can go ahead and do living entity dot damage, and we can go ahead and do integer dot parse int firework dot get custom name. So we're just going to damage it based on the damage that we stored earlier in the fireworks name. Then we can go ahead and go outside of our for loop and cancel our Bookit runnable so that it does not keep on running and lag the server out. Then now we can go here to our error and just type run task timer plugin, which is the reason why we needed our constructor earlier, and type 0L and 1L. So it's going to run this entire code here every 1 tick. And just remember that these two values are in ticks, and there are 20 ticks in 1 second. Now we can just go outside of our Bookit runnable and type event.setCancel as true, so that if the player right clicks a dirt block or a grass block with the rocket launcher, it does not change the dirt block into a path, the grass block into a path block. Yeah, I think that's how that is called. Now we can go outside and create another add event handler and type public void on hit. Then we're just going to put projectile hit event. So this is where we are going to be doing whenever our rocket ricochets. Then now we're just going to check if the projectile is our rocket first. So we're going to do if event.getEntity instance of firework, and if our event.getEntity.getCustomName is not null. This is just to determine our firework first. Then we can go ahead and do firework equals to bracketed firework, and we're just going to type event.getEntity. Then we are going to do firework.getWorld. Similar to just now, we're going to spawn in the particle just to like fake an explosion. And we're going to put particle dot explosion large, not explosion huge, just slightly smaller explosion. Then we're going to do firework dot get location and put its count as 10. Now we're going to put a sound. So firework dot get world dot play sound, and we're going to put the location as firework dot get location. Put the sound as generic entity generic explode again, and put its volume and pitch as 5. Now we can go ahead and set the direction of where our fireworks going to ricochet to. We're going to do firework dot set velocity as a new vector, this awk.kit.util, and then we can do firework dot get facing dot get mod x, comma firework dot get facing dot get mod y, comma firework dot get facing dot get mod z. So basically what this line just does is that it's going to ricochet the firework based off where it's facing. Then we are going to create actually we do not need to recreate the for loop. We are just going to copy and paste that from the other class just now. Now we are just going to change the player to our firework.getShooter, and that is the reason why we needed to set the shooter as our player before. And the last one would be to just go inside of our damaging line of code and just divide it by 2, because if we go back into our item manager, it actually halves the damage when it ricochets. And the reason why we are actually using the lore for the damage and not just setting the damage as 1000, for example, is because so that next time if we want to create a custom damage system, we can always just update the lore and not really care about this section anymore. But now we are not going to be taking a look at custom damage, so we are just going to go back to our main class and do this .get server .get plugin manager .register event. So we're just going to register the event and type in new, put in the name of the class of our rocket launcher event thing, and type this inside the bracket because of our constructor, and type this again. And we put the space in the wrong place. I do not know, my OCD is just kicking in. Alright, so that's done. We can go ahead and just build the artifacts of the plugin, and I shall see you in the test server. So we are back in the test server, and if we go ahead and run the command give rocket launcher, it actually gives us this rocket launcher with all the custom lore and everything. Then if we, for example, we're just going to spawn in a Ravager. That's not the correct command. Summon Ravager, and we just hit it. It will actually deal the custom damage. Then if you go ahead and right click, it will actually shoot, and it will start ricocheting. And the reason why it's doing that is because it's just ricocheting constantly at the corner of a block. So yeah, that's that, I guess. That's it for today's video, I guess. If you did enjoy today's tutorial, please leave a like and subscribe. It will be greatly appreciated. And if you do want to see more tutorials and have any ideas for future tutorials or plugins, feel free to leave a comment down below. And with that all said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you when I see you in the next video. Bye!